This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. It's time for Winnipeg Jets fans to start digging out their white gear. Whiteout party plans will be released by True North Sports and Entertainment tomorrow morning. Already, the city is getting ready to cheer on its NHL team. As CBC's Brittany Greenslade shows us, that could mean big business for bars and restaurants downtown who need it.
The excitement outside was palpable.
Because in Peg City, all we do is win.
It was loud, and fans couldn't get enough. Now the city is getting ready for the Winnipeg Whiteout parties to start once again.
It's really exciting. We love our Jets, right? And so we're really excited that they're in the playoffs. And there's such an energy, such an excitement that is felt all through the province, and certainly in Winnipeg and in our downtown.
Official plans for what Winnipeggers can expect will be released Friday morning. But it will be the first time fans have been able to gather and celebrate since before COVID.
This is a glass half full. This is a glass totally full situation, right? So we're really looking forward to getting people into our restaurants, filling those restaurants up. We can expect a pretty significant increase in guest activity in the downtown area restaurants.
Dropping in behind him, Buffalo shoots, he scores!
In 2018, when the Jets made it to the third round, it meant 9 whiteout parties in the downtown core. There were massive crowds of fans, and people were snaked around the streets and around the arena. The city and province came together.
It does something to us as a city. It's about how we feel about ourselves as well. It's our own self-image. And so I'm really looking forward to what cheering for the Jets together can do.
Street parties were capped at 27,000 people per event. But crowds spilled over, packing bars and restaurants and tripling business for some. Now, struggling restaurants are hoping for a do-over.
Restaurants that would normally be maybe 25% full. So you're looking at 4 times, the business if we can get them in there. And that's super exciting to even think about that.
Restaurants are already kicking into high gear to prepare and say another playoff run couldn't come at a better time.
It's really kind of mitigates a lot of those detriments that we've had to face for a while, right? And obviously, inflation and increasing in cost and increasing in supply chain management issues and stuff like that. This is just it's kind of like brings a smile to our face.
A smile that will hopefully last more than one round. Brittany Greenslade, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And there's news from another of Winnipeg's pro teams today as well. After 2 wins, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers made it to their 3rd straight Grey Cup game last season. The team also did well off the field. The Winnipeg Football Club posted an operating profit of just under $5 million in 2022. That's up from just over $2 million the year before. Things got heated today at the Manitoba legislature. Cabinet Minister Abhi Khan is accusing NDP leader Wab Kinew of launching a profane verbal attack against him. Kinew is denying Khan's version of events. The CBC's Ian Fraze joins us now live in the newsroom. Now, Ian, we're used to politicians yelling at each other, arguing with each other, but allegations of this nature are few and far between. What happened?
Let's backtrack, Janet. During the noon hour today, the NDP hosted an event to mark the province's first ever Turban Day. Leader Wab Kinew called it a nonpartisan event. They invited Culture and Heritage Minister Abhi Khan to speak. When it was his turn, Khan said he was delighted to be there, but he had to stand in front of an NDP backdrop. And he said it would have been nice to see PC and Liberal backdrops there as well, a line that prompted applause from some in the crowd. He said seeing all parties represented would have proven that this was the nonpartisan event that Kinew said it was. In the legislature today, Khan described what he says happened after he went to shake Kinew's hand. But first, a warning to viewers: what you're about to hear contains strong language. Khan warned the House of that himself.
Leader of Opposition pulled me in and said, "You piece of shit. How dare you politicize this event? Yep. What you did is f***ing wrong. We are never inviting you again to a f***ing event. I tried to back away from it. I'm a big guy. I could have probably backed away if I really wanted to make a scene. And I leaned over, we were close to close, said, now is not the time for this. We can talk about this later. And he would not let me leave.
Canoe denies any swearing, but is still apologizing, saying this event was no time and place for what he calls partisan bickering. Here's what Canoe says happened.
So you should not have said these partisan things. He comes back at me. He says, you have no class. We should address this at a different time. And then so I say, well, you should not have made these partisan comments. He then goes to attack us for having an NDP banner at an NDP-sponsored event. My colleague from the Maples was beginning to speak, and so I turned and said, we should listen, and I said the name of the member for the Maples to speak. That was the entirety of the exchange. At no time was there any swearing. At no time was there any name calling.
You can hear heckling in the background there, Ian. It sounds like the PCs didn't agree with Canoe's statement. What did Con say in response to it?
Yeah, he acknowledged that they have two very different versions of the same event.
I mean, how do you accept someone's apology when they deny the facts of what happened? I think I made it pretty clear. I'm a big guy. I'm a strong guy. I can handle myself. But to have that happen in here is, I don't even know what to say.
Political scientist Royce Koop says this marks a low point in the tone of politics leading up to the election. He says it may feed into the perception that Canoe is hot-tempered.
I think that if I was Wab Canoe, I'd be very careful about anything that might reinforce some of those criticisms and some of those attacks that might be coming in the future election campaign. And so it could have an effect in that respect. And it's something him and the people running the NDP campaign need to keep in mind going forward.
Koop says it'll be up to voters in October to decide which politician's version of events to believe. Janet.
Thank you, Ian. Our Ian Fraser reporting live from the newsroom tonight. There were also tense moments today at City Hall in Winnipeg. Councillors on the Community Services Committee grilled a representative of the Winnipeg Police Board. Then, as CBC's Cameron McLean reports, the chair had to stop one committee member from potentially interfering with contract negotiations.
For nearly an hour, councillors Russ Wyatt and Evan Duncan questioned Board Secretary Shauna Curtin. Wyatt and Duncan both sponsored a motion earlier this year calling on the board to order police to reopen 3 district stations that were closed to the public during the pandemic and haven't reopened since.
If you would have told council at that time, don't expect these district offices for the public to ever open, that there would be support for that. But now we're kind of stuck in a position where we're answering to the public of why are these district stations not open, and it's because of a lack of funding.
Curtin responded, saying it's too simple to say that the stations are not open due to a lack of funding. Police are in the process of installing video terminals in the stations where people can get help accessing some services that were previously done in person.
I've heard loud and clear that there are people that would prefer to have in-person service. The question is, in terms of balance, how can we provide some of those services without creating more demand on limited human resources?
In a later exchange, Wyatt asked Curtin about whether police officers have sufficient mental health benefits.
We should consider, under the benefit plan, increasing the benefits both for the employer and the employees to contribute to.
Orlico interrupted him, pointing out that the city is currently in contract talks with the police union.
You're putting out a position as a councillor regarding benefits being increased or decreased as negotiations are. You're not helping negotiations, I don't believe, on this for the city.
Curtin also said the Winnipeg Police Board has no involvement in the negotiations. Wyatt responded that he was unaware of that. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Manitoba First Nation will soon mark a tragic anniversary. Ahead of that, the community urges all levels of government to build an airport. The CBC's Stephanie Cram explains.
25 years ago, on April 23, 1998, a helicopter transporting elders from Wasagamak First Nation crashed moments after taking off. For Chief Walter Harper, the tragedy is personal. His mother, Bernadette, was one of 2 elders who died that day.
My heart just went when I saw her in the nursing station, and I don't know how I felt that day. It's almost like everything just stopped right there.
Wasagamak is one of 4 First Nations in an area known as Island Lake. But the only way out of the community is by helicopter. The closest airport is in St. Teresa Point First Nation. After the 1998 crash, then NDP MLA Eric Robinson promised to have an airport built. But Chief Harper said that never happened.
And this is why I'm here today, is to get that promise back to the First Nations, because we've been promised so many times, and that it was never a reality to us.
In 2017, calls for an airport in Wasagamak were renewed as the community fled from a wildfire raging nearby.
It's almost like we were in a tunnel, a black smoke, and everybody was just rushing to the dock, and kids as well.
Now the Manitoba Liberals urged the province to step up and build an airport.
The benefits of this airport are crystal clear. Better medical care will save lives while reducing millions in extra transportation, lower food costs, costs for everything, even access to critical minerals. It's shovel ready because they've been waiting to build it for 50 years.
The province says an airport on First Nations land is the responsibility of the federal government.
Madam Speaker, this is a great opportunity for the member from St. Boniface to come to the table to ask his Prime Minister, the Liberals in the government right now, to come to the table, Madam Speaker. Yes. I actually met with Patty Haidu. I had a list of many lists. Cindy Woodhouse was actually at the table, Madam Speaker, about Wasagamak First Nation. So I tell the member right there to go talk to his Prime Minister. Yeah.
In a statement to CBC, the province says they are open to working with the federal government to build an airport, but they say they need to conduct their own engineering and feasibility studies before agreeing to the project. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Winnipeg.
2 people are now in custody after a man was shot and stabbed in central Winnipeg. It happened in an apartment on Furby near Ellis Tuesday night. Police say the 38-year-old man was visiting a home when an argument erupted. It ended in that man being shot and stabbed. He was rushed to hospital and treated. A 22-year-old woman and 28-year-old man now face numerous weapons-related charges. People gathered at a Winnipeg hotel today to air grievances and concerns over Canada's COVID-19 response. It's part of a citizen-led cross-country inquiry examining how governments and institutions reacted to the pandemic. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, the hearings drew vocal opponents of public health measures.
For them, who chose not to get the vaccine, it should always have remained a private medical decision.
People filled this room at the Holiday Inn Airport West Hotel in a setting that appeared formal and structured. They came to hear expert witnesses and members of the public speak about the impact of COVID-19 policies. Rick Dick is a People's Party of Canada riding director in Winnipeg who attended because he disagreed with public health measures such as mask mandates in grocery stores.
There was a time when I went to Super Value on St. James and there was an officer there, and he denied me the ability to buy food just because I wasn't wearing a mask.
It's all part of what's called the National Citizens Inquiry into Canada's response to COVID-19, which is holding hearings across the country. It was launched by former Reform Party leader Preston Manning, who has since taken a step back. Engineer Ken Drysdale is one of 4 inquiry commissioners who listened and asked questions of witnesses participating both remotely via video and in person.
The absolute risks were you locked a child up in their bedroom for 2 months and they couldn't go to school, and what the consequences of that might be.
Witnesses questioned the decision-making and science behind certain public health measures, including vaccine mandates, restrictions on in-person gatherings, and school closures. They also spoke about concerns over media censorship of scientists and experts who wanted to give different opinions. This was the first of 3 days of hearings in Winnipeg. Spokesperson Michelle Ledoux-Catlin calls it a unique inquiry.
It is citizen-run, it is citizen-funded. This is done through people in Canada who want to hear what Canadians have experienced.
She says it's being paid for through donations. Patrick Allard, a vocal opponent of public health measures, signed up to testify about the impact on him and his family.
From, lockdown measures, whether that was great-grandma in a nursing home, not having the care she needed, not having the family.
The inquiry's website says public officials, including Manitoba Premier Heather Stephenson and Chief Provincial Public Health Officer Dr. Brent Rusin, were summoned to testify, but organizers say they didn't respond. At the end of it all, commissioners will put together a report with recommendations and share it publicly. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Meteorologist John Sauder joins us now. Yeah, he's the guy who keeps an eye on our weather, but right now he's watching weather in another part of the country because I think he might be a little bit envious. Yeah. I don't know, are you? A little bit?
It's early to have summer heat.
We'd like spring.
Yeah.
Yeah, other people are getting summer already.
Summer. Shorts, T-shirts, flip-flops. We're talking Ottawa, Toronto. I'm going to show you some cross-Canada temperatures now. To the west of us, it's snowing in the Regina area, southern Saskatchewan. That's the cold side of the system that's bringing rain into southern Manitoba tonight. And you can see the moving arrows here. That's the upper-level flow that is really the trough that's out to the west, and the ridge that is out to the east. Look at these temperatures, and these aren't the highs. This is what's happening right now. Earlier today in Ottawa, it was 30 degrees. It was 29 in Toronto. But even as we get into the 7 o'clock hour, the evening hours here in the east, we're looking at mid to upper 20s through parts of Quebec and down through southern Ontario. So yes, certainly some warm air out to the east, and just a sign of things to come, but it'll take a little while here. We were shooting for 9 today. We got to 8 degrees. Wind's still gusting up around 44 kilometers per hour, so lots of wind to deal with over the next little while. And if you're far enough north in western Manitoba, you're seeing a rain-snow mix. So this would be around Roblin and Russell. Some of this not quite reaching the ground. Some of the rain up around Dauphin I checked on earlier, and it was just a cloudy sky, but a stretch of some showers through that central Interlake section of the province. Not much right now around Winnipeg, and some clear patches to our southeast, but the rain is going to move in. It's just taking its time getting here. So generally a cloudy day today. By the time we get to about noon on Friday, we're into that steadier rain. The pink you see here is a rain-snow mix, not necessarily freezing rain. Temperatures will be above zero at the surface, but a lot of this transitions into snow later on in the day, farther to the north. And you look at the darker colors out here in through Kenora and Fort Francis and on into Dryden, Red Lake. And that's about 5 millimeters of rain tonight, an additional 10 to 15 for tomorrow. So east of the Red River Valley on into the afternoon, that's where most of that rain will be accumulating, and it turns into snow up to the northeast. Now, this is Saturday morning. We may see a few snowflakes in the morning. Generally a cloudy day, but look at the sharp line of clearing that moves in as we get into Sunday. So middle of the night Saturday, we're looking at 2 in the morning on Sunday here. That clearing is happening, so expect some sunshine to be returning on Sunday. Now, rainfall amounts over the next 24 hours really backing off on this particular model. Winnipeg at only 2 millimeters. I think we'll be closer to 5, but you can see some mid-teens out around Red Lake and Sioux Lookout. So tonight we're cloudy. We'll see rain starting up overnight into the morning hours through the middle of the day, tapering to showers in the afternoon. Breezy again and only 5 degrees. And then on Saturday we're cooler yet. A few morning flurries, generally cloudy, breezy, and 4. Then it's back to sunshine and at least a little closer to seasonal, Janet, as we get into Sunday and Monday, even warmer for Tuesday. I'll show you that a little later.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, John.
You bet.
Well, April is Sikh Heritage Month in Canada. As you heard earlier in the newscast, today was also Turban Day in Manitoba. Red River College Polytechnic invited students and staff to learn more about Sikh culture by wearing a turban. The event actually started in 2014. It was started by a student, and it's now led by the college's Student Association. Our videographer, Warren Kay, was there.
Hi, I'm Anprit Kaur. I'm president for Red River College Polytechnic Students Association. It's being celebrated at RRC from 5 years, but because after COVID, it is first time that we are celebrating Turban Pride Day on campus. and it's very exciting. And people are coming, asking about, what is turban. We have some pamphlets, so that they can read, and we are explaining them like what is turban as well. They can come and they can choose a color, and we have some volunteers who can, tie turbans to their head. Turban is basically our crown and Sikh religion that represents our Sikh culture, and women also wear turbans, but it is not mandatory for women. We are just promoting our culture, and we are celebrating for our Sikh culture over here, wearing turbans.
Hi, I'm Fred Meyer. I'm the president and CEO of RRC Polytech. It's one of a number of events we do to embrace diversity within our community as well, and it's exciting to see the students down here tying turbans as well, and doing a bit of interpretation. It allows you to ask questions, right, about perhaps a culture you don't know very much about, and you might have some questions about. So everybody's very open and sharing, and some great storytelling as well.
My name is Samantha Watts. I'm a student at Red River College. All the bright colors like pink, yellow. We honestly weren't sure it was happening today, but me and my classmates just decided to check it out and just kind of learn from the experience.
Hi, my name is Miguel Delisay. I'm a student at Red River College. I had really no knowledge of much of their culture, so it's pretty cool to be able to put one on and learn.
I like this one, yes. Yeah. This is a rust one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
My name is Shivcharan Sandhu. I am retired now. I work at this college for 35 years. If you have the whole 6-meter long turban in your hand, it's very hard to turn. But when we stretch it, then we fold it, and then you just go around and around.
The name the grandfathers and grandmothers give me is Buffalo Man. I'm from the Sturgeon clan, and I'm from Powerview. I come to learn for other cultures. To gain that experience. I have the privilege of sharing my knowledge with the students and the staff in the college, so I think it's just awesome that I get to learn other cultures as well.
Hi, my name is Karina McCudden, and I am a paramedic student at Red River College.
It looks beautiful. Smile.
I think all events like this are good for the city or good for the college because it allows people to take a peek in on other people's religions, faiths, or backgrounds or ethnicities in general, and allows them to get a little bit of a better understanding of why people decide to wear certain things or present a certain way.
That's fantastic. I mean, look at this. It's great.
That is a great event. Good for them. The Winnipeg Home and Garden Show began today, something a lot of people will be excited about. One of the show's expert guests is a Winnipegger who's passionate about making homes green and comfy. Digital content creator Heather Barnes calls herself a deal finder, a do-it-yourselfer, and a van builder. Her Instagram account has more than 91,000 followers. CBC's Jim Agapito met up with her to get tips on beautifying your space.
We are at the Winnipeg Home and Garden Show at the RBC Convention Center, and I'm here joined with Heather Barnes, the lovely Heather Barnes, who will help you beautify your home. She's a digital content creator and beautifier extraordinaire. Heather, how are you doing today?
I am great. I'm really excited to get up on the main stage and share some plant care tips.
Okay, so I'm glad you're going to give us some tips. First things off, man's home is his castle, so I'm wondering, what are some tips that people can do to beautify their space?
So the first thing I would recommend is get easy plants. So for my top 3 plants would be a pothos, a zizi, and a snake plant. Those are the easiest plants to get into having plants in your home.
Okay, so I was scoping out your Instagram and I noticed you have a mixture of fake plants and real plants. Okay, yeah. Which is better?
I don't think any are better per se. I think it has to do with like what you're willing, what kind of care, like time you have for plant care, what kind of home you have light-wise. I have southern exposure, so I can have real plants no problem. But if you live in an apartment with north-facing windows, or maybe you're in a basement suite, you might not be able to have as many real plants, so fake is a great option.
Okay, so I want to take, the outside and bring it in the home. You just talked about plants. How do I do that?
Well, first off, you start with easy plants, okay. Zizi, snake, pothos, and then if you're really struggling, what I would recommend is buying a moisture meter. So those are on Amazon and Garden Center, whatever. If you're struggling with knowing how much water your plant needs, definitely grab a moisture meter. You can just stick it in the plant and it'll tell you exactly how much water you need to give your plant.
Okay, say I'm a little more of an intermediate advanced plant person, okay? What are the plants that I should think about having in my home?
Okay, so if you've nailed ZZ plant, snake plant, pothos, then you can go up to like a monstera, a bird of paradise. I can actually see one here at the convention center. There's lots of plants everywhere for you to get inspired. A bird of paradise is a great one. And then if you're really feeling like you want a challenge, get a fiddle leaf fig, because they are kind of tricky, but very fulfilling if you are successful with them.
Do you have any of those?
No, I got rid of them. They're too tricky.
Oh! Okay, so with that being said, DIY tips. I know you're a DIYer, so DIY tips. What are your favorite DIY tips for the home?
Okay, so I started off where I was at. I started with a really easy project first, and I think that's the key. If you're going to start DIY, I wouldn't recommend a full bathroom renovation right off the hop. Start with something small, maybe paint an accent wall, update some trim in your home, and this build up from there. I started with a little kind of closet renovation, and just last year I renovated a bathroom. So you really just kind of build up on your skills and go from there.
Okay. Now budget-wise, right? Say you're on a budget. How do we keep ourselves in a budget to beautify the home? What are some tips?
So I am like a firm believer in making sure you have the money before you renovate. So save up. That way you're not breaking the bank, taking out loans, that kind of stuff. Lots of budget-friendly options to shop at. Home Depot has lots of great budget-friendly vanities, trim, stuff like that. Also, things like the Restore are great places to go, and then you can kind of get some used items and kind of beautify your home on a budget. Last thing, paint is the best thing to use. It's super cheap and it makes a big impact.
Tell the people about your blog and your Instagram. Where can people find you?
So my handle is Our Barns Yard. I create content on Instagram and TikTok. And I just kind of created my channel over my maternity leave. I was feeling like I had this time on my hands and I started sharing my projects and people were really interested. And now, instead of teaching, I do content full time. So that's where I am on Our Barns Yard every day. You can hang out there.
And when can people hear you tomorrow?
Tomorrow I'm speaking at 3 o'clock, so I will see you on the main stage.
Thanks so much, Heather.
Thanks for having me.
A group of pro-Russian hackers has claimed responsibility for more than a dozen cyber attacks on Canadian websites. We'll bring you the latest on that after the break. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has condemned the latest cyber attack to hit a Canadian institution. A group of pro-Russian hackers is claiming responsibility for hitting Hydro-Quebec's website. Earlier this week, websites for several Canadian ports were hit. But as Kate McKenna reports, Trudeau says the hackers won't force Canada to change its support for Ukraine.
After days of Hydro-Quebec outages because of freezing rain, another kind of outage. The Power Authority's website was knocked offline.
Around 3 a.m., we identified a cyber attack, which is a type of a denial of access. There was no exfiltration, infiltration, no customer data were impacted.
More than a dozen Canadian websites, including the Prime Minister's office and the Senate, were attacked, their servers overwhelmed. Experts don't think there were security breaches, but the websites were down.
From a security perspective, it's not that scary. It's not that intimidating.
It's impossible to know for sure who is responsible, but the pro-Russian group No Name 05716 is taking credit. This week, the Prime Minister of Ukraine visited, prompting experts to think that could be why Canada was targeted.
They are trying to erode people's support for the government's support of Ukraine. They want to try and cause so much minor disruption that people become resistant to the government continuing to provide support to Ukraine.
The Prime Minister says Canadians won't back down.
Denial of service attacks on government websites, bringing them down for a few hours, is not going to cause us to rethink our unequivocal stance of doing whatever it takes for as long as it takes to support Ukraine.
Though experts say they don't believe these attacks put Canadians at risk, the government does warn that cyber threats have become more common since the beginning of the war in Ukraine, and they should be taken seriously. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
A man is under arrest in connection with the leak of classified American documents. He is a U.S. Air National Guardsman. As the CBC's Magda Gabrisalasa reports, the announcement came amid a flurry of media reports and U.S. officials facing more concerns about current security effectiveness.
It is important to understand that we do have stringent guidelines in place for safeguarding classified and sensitive information. This was a deliberate criminal act.
Today, new information that the authorities have a suspect, a 21-year-old man working with the Massachusetts Air National Guard.
Today, the Justice Department arrested Jack Douglas Teixeira in connection with an investigation into alleged unauthorized removal, retention, and transmission of classified national defense information. FBI agents took Teixeira into custody earlier this afternoon without incident.
Earlier, the Washington Post reported that the alleged leaker was a gun enthusiast and a leader of an online group on the platform Discord. Online, he apparently went by the name OG, allegedly writing about classified information first before eventually posting pictures of the documents. This is a part of an interview the Washington Post did with a member of that online group.
I don't think that there was a goal nor some sort of accomplishment that he was looking for in sharing these documents. OG was not hostile to the U.S. government. However, he had disagreed with several occasions, such as Waco and Ruby Ridge, and thought that the government is overreaching in several aspects.
The documents reportedly reveal details on Russia's war on Ukraine, as well as information on other countries, including allies.
I'm concerned that it happened, but there's nothing contemporaneous that I'm aware of that is of great consequence.
Now, after reportedly showing up on Discord, pictures of the documents allegedly popped up on various other sites. Discord has released a statement that says it's cooperating with the investigation. Magda Gabrisalasa, CBC News, Washington.
A new hurdle is emerging for apartment hunters. Securing an affordable place to live is already an imposing quest for many. Now some are being asked for personal information just to look at one. The CBC's Julia Wong has the story.
Jump here. This cramped hotel room is home for Vanessa C. while she looks for a place to rent for her family. She says the search has been tough and invasive.
Our full name, my daughter's full name. They also ask for their birthdays, my SIN number, driver's license. They ask for your vehicle's plate number.
And that's not to rent a place, but simply to view it. C says she gave that information in hopes it would help her land a place to live.
Right now, I feel very desperate to find a place for my family.
She is not alone.
So we're being asked for a social insurance number, our banking information, like account details.
The women say they were told the details were needed to verify their identity and weed out potential bad tenants. And when they don't share it,
Usually it's no contact after that, so they won't continue setting up a viewing.
Organizations might be trying to take advantage of this situation.
even in a tight rental market, this privacy expert says it's unreasonable to ask for that information just to view a property.
They could take on your identity. They could use it for nefarious purposes. They could try opening credit cards in your name.
MacArthur says renters have a couple of options. They could say no when asked for that personal information. He says they could also complain to their provincial or territorial privacy commissioner. But he says that complaint process may take some time, longer than most renters may have. Those who work with landlords say it's inappropriate to ask for that much information, but say they may be trying to safeguard their properties.
I can imagine perhaps some folks or individuals are quite nervous. They're overprotecting themselves by asking too much information too early in the process.
As for C, this room may be home for a long time.
It's very frustrating and sad to live in a hotel.
Julia Wong, CBC News, Calgary.
Celine Dion released a new song today.
Rising tides, tears you cry every night seem never end.
The song Love Again is from a romantic comedy of the same name that's due out next month. Dion herself is in the movie, playing herself in a supporting role. Today's release comes after a difficult few years for the singer. In 2019, she was diagnosed with a rare neurological condition, which she says has affected her singing and changed her life. Those warmer than normal summer-like temperatures John was talking about in Ontario and Quebec are having quite an impact. We've got a story on that coming up, and then John will bring us our Manitoba forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Well, as John showed us, this has been one warm week in Eastern Canada, especially Ontario and Quebec. Some of the highest April temperatures they've seen in decades. That could mean record-setting heat. Lisa Shing has more.
When it's summer in April, it's sun's out, guns out.
I'm on my way to the beach.
You're on your way to the
Yeah,
beach?
we're going to play some volleyball.
I'm just having a great time today. I'm missing work. Don't tell anybody.
Cheers.
Cheers! Temperatures in Toronto hit a record 29 degrees.
We came from Alberta, so it's super cold there, and now it's perfect here. It's like tropical. Came over from Ireland on Tuesday, so it's a lot better than there.
And after this ice storm cut off power to more than 1 million Hydro-Quebec customers just a few days ago, this is a welcome 180 in Montreal.
The weather's nice, unexpectedly.
It's amazing. It just feels so good to have the sun on my face.
While people are making the most of it, there's still some stuff you can't do, like work on your golf swing, in Ottawa at least.
The ice storm last week certainly set us back. So right now, really, the key is just these warm temperatures to dry the grass out.
And if you're itching to get out gardening gloves, you have to wait a bit longer to do that too, because the ground's still frozen.
So I would say hold off. If you are really keen, there are a few veggies you can put in.
Meteorologists say unusually high temperatures for a day or two isn't all that rare for this time of year, but 4 days in a row above 20 degrees is unusual. The longest on record was back in 2008, 7 consecutive days. Experts say this flux in weather will become more common due to climate change.
It's more of a tendency of extremes. So we'll see more occurrences of very high temperatures, more occurrences of very low temperatures as well.
Speaking of which, this heat isn't here to stay. Flurries are in the forecast for next week. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
So I heard that talk of climate extremes there, John, and not just, from year to year, but week to week, ice storm to summer.
Yeah, it was interesting to see that person talking about the ice storm last week, and then, golf courses possibly getting ready to open. Yeah, pretty amazing. Not time to golf here yet. We're going to go through some temperatures here across southern Manitoba. We're at 8 degrees at the airport, and that was our high today. Still 8 at the Forks, 6 in Selkirk, 8 in Morris. Temperatures all single-digit highs today right across southern Manitoba. A little bit cooler out to the west, where some rain is starting to get from the Saskatchewan border into the Manitoba area, and then farther north, a little bit of snow through the middle part of the Interlake. A better day today across the north. Not as much snow, rain, but it's coming back. Another system will roll into the north tonight and tomorrow, and I'll show you that in a second. This is all of the heavy cloud that is giving snow to Saskatchewan, some rain to parts of southern Manitoba, but here in the Winnipeg area, it's slow to arrive. It'll head out east with about 5 millimeters overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, and then we're looking at another, bunch of rain tomorrow. Still some light rain overnight here, lows all staying above 0. That's good news. Across into the southwest, a low of 1 in Brandon, some rain overnight. 0, so rain mixed with some wet snow possible up around Dauphin and Swan River. And then farther north, we'll see another system starting to roll in, but it really gets going into the morning. Flurries overnight in Churchill. Everyone else just slightly below 0, a little cooler around Island Lake. And then tomorrow, we'll see some wet snow changing over to showers. So afternoon showers in the Flin Flon area, a few flurries early in Lynn Lake, and then some showers in the afternoon. Afternoon showers in Thompson, and some morning flurries followed by clearing in Churchill. A high of 3 in Island Lake, but 2 to 4 centimeters of snow on the way. So it'll be a wet, slushy event. And just periods of rain across the south. Light rain amounts out in the west, more like 1 to 2 millimeters. I think we've got a shot at about 5 millimeters here in Winnipeg, and then slightly higher amounts out toward the White Shell, and certainly into northwestern Ontario, where we're looking at 10 to 15 millimeters of additional rain tomorrow. Look at the temperature tomorrow in Fort Frances at 17, Dryden at 13 degrees tomorrow.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Feel like going running this weekend? Steinbach hosts its first Barkman Marathon Saturday. It promises to be a much kinder, much gentler take on the Barkleys, a famous race held each year in Tennessee. Hear from a local runner what they have planned after the break. You're watching CBC. There's a quirky new race/treasure hunt planned for this Saturday in Steinbach. It's inspired by the Barkley Marathons. They've been run annually since the 1980s in the woods of Tennessee. Created by a mysterious man called Laz, the Barkleys are known as the most brutal races in the world. In almost 40 years, only 17 people have ever finished all 5 circuits. The long course through rough terrain leaves those who try to finish it in the fetal or recovery position, as seen here. I spoke yesterday with a member of Steinbach's running community who was also being a bit mysterious. Brent Mankey, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
You know, you're wearing a toque that says geezer, and I once saw a photo of the guy who was behind the Barkley marathons wearing a hat that said geezer. Is this a hint to your true identity as one of the organizers?
I'm not Laz. I would never claim to be, but I did find this. My daughter found this toque on my doorstep this morning, so I guess I should wear it.
Right. Well, I've heard that there is someone in Steinbach going by the name Klaz. Sounds like Laz, so maybe it's a reference to him.
Might be.
What's with all the mystery?
There's a lot of myth and mystery around any town, any city, and I think it's fun to explore that. So on
Now
Saturday, that's what we're going to do.
Styled after the Barkley Marathon. We've got some video we're going to run of that now. The Steinbach event's called the Barkman. Why that name?
It sounds a lot like Barkley, but there's a lot of history around the Barkman name. Some of the founding fathers of Steinbach and several former mayors have had the last name of Barkman. I don't have the last name of Barkman, but it's been a thread. So that's the history of Barkman.
Hence the connection of why it's coming to Steinbach. Now, as we look at the Barkley Marathon, you know, only 17 people in like 40 years have finished this thing. How grueling will Steinbach's version be?
We have the opportunity of having more than 17 finishers, but you never know. The DNFs are always encouraged at the Barkley and at the Barkman marathons, but I don't think it will be quite as extreme. The elevation alone, we know, can't be quite as extreme as the Barkleys.
Now, by DNFs, that's do not finish?
Yes. So, yeah, in the Barkleys, very few people finish. I'm hoping that we'll all be home by lunchtime and we'll have successfully finished the Barkman marathons.
Okay, so what do you need people to do on Saturday if they want to participate?
Yeah, so we have sign up available. When people show up, they are bringing $3.25 and a bag of sunflower seeds, what we like to call knocksout, and they're signing up to do 5 laps to go look for books around Steinbach.
5 laps to go look for books. Okay, that doesn't sound that grueling.
Oh, it's easy. It's a little bit like our Easter scavenger hunts. It's a little bit like that. They're hidden and they need to be found, and the map courses will only be released on that date. So any runner who signed up doesn't really know what they're getting themselves into. So there will be some mystery involved and possibly some navigational challenges.
Interesting. These books might have mysterious titles, for example.
Something
fun like that. They might.
They might. Well, the Barkleys are known for having ironic or interesting titles that kind of coincide with the grueling event itself. So we've tried to, I think the books that our runners will find might have some similarities.
What are you honestly, in all seriousness, hoping happens on Saturday?
Oh, I'm hoping that we just have a lot of fun. I think whenever a bunch of people get together, it is fun, and I hope that we, explore this town in a different way, and end up laughing a lot.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good idea to me.
Yeah.
Brent Mankey, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Just search the Barkman Marathon on Eventbrite for more. John's back with your 7-day forecast, then we've got your daily lift when we return.
Well, I guess it's that time of year where we trade in the shovels for the umbrellas. You can probably get by with an umbrella tomorrow. I'm not expecting a whole lot of rain, maybe 5 millimeters, but cool and breezy at 5 degrees. Still breezy, 4 only. On Saturday, might see a few wet snowflakes. Then an improvement, back to sunshine Sunday and Monday. 12 degrees on Tuesday. And Janet, it does look like more rain on Wednesday next week.
April showers.
Bring
Mayflowers.
Which are great to give someone on their birthday.
Oh,
flowers.
that's
right?
true.
If you're a fan of birthday celebrations, this next story is certainly for you.
They did have a big birthday party, and they actually set a world record, too, at the zoo in Berlin. Here's your Daily Lift. Fatu here is a gentle giant and a great-great-grandmother of 16 gorillas. She celebrated her 66th birthday, making her the oldest living gorilla ever. In the wild, gorillas typically live to be 40-ish. Several in captivity have made it to 60 years old, but as far as we know, Fatu is the first and only one to make it to 66. The zoo marked the occasion with this bush and also a fruit basket, which Fatu loves. And normally, John, apparently she only eats vegetables, which is, you know, we'd all be healthier if we just ate vegetables.
Exactly,
right?
Fruit and vegetables.
There you go. Thank you for being with us this evening.
Have a great evening.
See you tomorrow.